The date module presents us with our first example of extending field options by adding a module. So this will include a new field type called date, and it will add nice things like a pop-up date selector, and it will allow us to integrate with views to do things like sorting by date without having to do any awkward finagling. So let's go ahead and install the module. I'm going to go ahead and open up a new tab and do a search for Drupal date. And we can go ahead and click on the topmost link. This is the date module page. I'm going to scroll down to the very bottom. And again, we've gone through the process of adding a module before, so I'm going to do this rather quickly. It looks like this is the 7 version. I'm going to go ahead and copy the link to the tar.gz file by selecting copy link location. And then I'm going to jump back to the site and go to the modules page by clicking modules in the administration bar. And then I'm going to click install new module. I'm going to paste in the URL in this install from a URL section of the form, and then I'm going to click install. This will go ahead and download the module and install it. And notice that when installation is complete, we have some errors at the top of the page. Now, if you're using a later version of the date module, these may be fixed. Also, if your error settings are set a bit lower, then you might not see these errors on the page. But what do you do when these errors display? Well, first of all, we need to take note of what they say and also see if it breaks anything. If we look at these, we get a sense for how urgent these notices are. So notice that each item on this bullet list is prefixed with a warning level. This is notice, this is warning, this is notice, this is notice. And then it says installation failed. See log below for more information. So the level of the warnings above, notice and warning, are both pretty low. They usually mean that it didn't stop a script from running, it simply wasn't written quite right. And so we're getting a little bit of notices. This last line is a little worrisome though, because it says that installation failed. What we don't know though is if this error was triggered by these notices showing up, or if there was something else going on. So the way we can know for sure is by going to the module page and seeing if our module is listed, and if we can enable the module. Notice that we don't have a link here under next steps to go ahead and enable our module. So let's go ahead and click on administration pages. And from here, let's click on the modules link in the navigation bar. And then let's do a search for date and see if it shows up. I'm doing a browser search down here, and we're looking on the page for date. Now, date is used pretty extensively. For example, we're getting triggers for update. So I'm just going to the next matches. And then here, we have a new section called date time. And these are actually the date modules. So even though the error message said that the installation failed, it appears that what it really meant was that installation didn't run exactly right. So we might want to check to make sure that all of the files were expanded properly and such. Let's go ahead and look at these items to see what modules were included with the date module package. This one is called date, and it defines date time fields and widgets. So it sounds like that's one we definitely want. Let's go ahead and check that. We have the date API, and it says the date API can be used by other modules. It sounds like we should probably install that since we are going to be using the date module with views, for example. Date pop-up says that it enables jQuery pop-up calendars and time entry widgets for selecting dates and times. That sounds nice. Let's go ahead and select that to make adding dates a little bit easier. The date repeat API says that it's to calculate repeating dates and times from iCal rules. That doesn't sound like quite what we need right now. We just need one-off times. So let's go ahead and leave that be. Date tools says tools to import and auto-create dates and calendars. We don't need to import anything now because we're adding our minimal data set manually. And then date views. It says views integration for date fields and date functionality. And notice that it requires the date API. So this is a further extension of the date API to integrate with views, and we definitely want that. So let's go ahead and check that and scroll down to the very bottom, and let's save configuration and enable these modules.